So he said, I've used oil. The doctor told me to use some oil and it's made me go deaf. It made it worse. That's very, very common. People often say that they don't like using oil because as soon as they do, it blocks their ears up completely, so they avoid it. So let me tell you a little bit about why that happens. Basically, our ear canals, if you've got lots and lots of wax in your ear canal, it will only really affect your hearing. And I mean, some studies say 80% wax blockage in your ear can affect your hearing, but the average person, will only notice it if it 100% blocks your ear, which means 99% of wax, it is a small aperture, small hole for the sound to get through. Most people don't notice it, but clearly they need to get it removed because it's not feeling comfortable. So the GP looks in their ears, sees wax and says, you need to use some olive oil before you go and see a specialist. They start using the wax, and that 1% hole blocks up because the wax expands. And then they get really annoyed because they're like, why have I used this oil? I was hearing fine before I started using it and it's made it worse. Well, things have to get worse before they get better, my dear fellow. So essentially, before we see you, we need for you to have used the oil for a couple of days. We recommend you use Otex olive oil because in my experience that works best. Couple of days is enough to soften the wax. It gives it enough lubrication that my job is made a little bit easier. There is a fine line though, and this is something that is a little bit from a legacy period of using water. 99% of the time we're using microsuction, so we're not using water. But the old method of water irrigation relied much more on the wax being much softer, and you can understand why, because water's having to go behind the back, and it's easier if it's softer. So GPs often carry that legacy and they tell people to use olive oil for 7 days, and people listen to the GP like it's gospel, and we tell them please don't, because if you do that for more than 2, 3, 4 days, the consistency of the wax becomes watery, and watery wax often makes it much more difficult to remove. We want there to be a little bit of a body to the wax, a little bit of substance. Slightly soft is helpful, but watery often isn't helpful. It clogs up the machine, it clogs up the suction tube. It's not helpful at all. So if you're going to give advice to people, my GP friends, tell them if they're going for microsuction, 2 to 3 days of treatment with olive oil or with Otex is really helpful to us. You're going to save us, you're going to make me smile, you're going to make the patient smile because their process will be a lot easier, and you'll be smiling because your patient won't be coming back to you. I hope that video was helpful to you. As always, see you next time.